Democrats are slamming President Trump's decision to fire his top election security official. Christopher Krebs praised the integrity of this year's election. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which Krebs led, says the 2020 vote was both fair and accurate. This comes as the president is attempting to undermine the election results through false claims of voter fraud and numerous lawsuits. Representative Thompson, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us. You and Vice Chair Lauren Underwood released a statement calling the president's firing of Krebs disturbing and anti-democratic. What specific actions will you take as Homeland Security Chair in reaction to his firing?
Well, obviously, we'll have some oversight hearings. We'll look into the real reasons why. It's the president's call, but unfortunately, it comes at absolutely the worst time of the year. Chris Krebs has been, from all intensive purposes, a very good leader of CISA. And we can't understand why at this moment, in the midst of a controversial election, would the president make this move.
And you also say the president's move to fire Krebs makes this country less safe. How so? What's different now that Krebs is not in this position?
Well, the number one, the number two, and the number three persons he's fired just because they, in their professional opinion, they looked and said everything was fine. Now you have a fourth-tier person in charge who no one really knows. We'll talk to him later on today. But the real challenge is why at the last minute you have about 60 days left in your tenure as president, and you'd want to do this. Why would you upset an agency whose cyber mission is to protect us from enemies, foreign and domestic? We had a wonderful election on November 3rd. To the credit of CISA and a lot of hard-working professionals, it went according to plan. President Trump didn't like it, but unfortunately, it worked well for everybody else. But, you know, he's president. It's his call. A lot of us think he's just being petty and spiteful on his way out the door.
And so you mentioned clearly there's just 2 months remaining of the Trump administration. What are your main concerns for those remaining months regarding election and cybersecurity now that Krebs is not there?
Well, to be honest with you, the Russians are still on a daily basis trying to infiltrate our systems here, the Chinese, so are the Iranians. We have to have competent leadership at the top. The real challenge for us now is who would want to come in at this juncture with this kind of hysteria going on in this department for 60 days. So the president's not really thinking. He's reacting to the fact that all of the professionals, all the people who are tasked with responsibility of looking at our system of election, and they've worked with secretaries of states, they work with other local election officials. They have confidence in our system of elections. I really wish our president would just get over it. The elections, we've had them in America. We pick our leaders at this level every 4 years. So someone has to win, someone has to lose. But to try to somehow defame the character and credibility of the people tasked with that responsibility of protecting that system is just not right. So I hope in the next iteration, President Trump will just get over it and let's get on with the business of keeping America safe.
And do you worry that our cyber enemies might perhaps look at this as an opportunity, this moment of disarray, as an opportunity? And are there any signs that that might be going on?
Well, you know, our enemies are constantly trying to penetrate our cyber systems. To the credit of our professionals, as I've said, they do a wonderful job. but this is a 24 hour, 7 day a week type job. So Chris Krebs and his team, Democrats and Republicans, have all said they've done a wonderful job. And he, to his credit, has taken politics out of it. It's just unfortunately that by him saying the election was held fair and square and there was nothing nefarious going on, the president didn't like it. But I can tell you with certainty, our foreign adversaries on a daily basis are constantly trying to penetrate our systems. And so without sound leadership, that potentially puts us at risk.
I also want to ask you about Acting Homeland Security Director Chad Wolf. A federal judge ruled he did not have the authority to restrict the DACA program because he was unlawfully serving in the acting role, despite the Trump administration's attempts to use legal loopholes. Are there any specific oversight actions in the last 2 months of the Trump administration in reaction to these attempts to try and keep Wolf in power unlawfully?
Well, supposedly the Senate has a confirmation hearing being scheduled. We now saw another authorization being submitted to clear up the earlier error that was made, that the administration somehow said was not an error. So it's been a comedy of errors all along. And when I asked the GAO to look into how this process was working, GAO looked at it and found out that Chad Wolf was, in fact, appointed improperly, and that all of the authorizations passed under his leadership, for most part, were null and void. So they're constantly trying to pursue it. The court in New York just ruled on the DACA children who are here that Chad Wolf is serving illegally. So therefore, he really can't do anything in his role as acting secretary. So I feel they'll constantly go on. So I'm not sure if the Senate will take up the confirmation for him. But again, we're 2 months from a new administration. And this Trump administration continues to try to pretend like everything's just fine. And this musical chairs with the appointment, this is not how you run a government. I really wish the stability that Americans have come to like and get used to would get back. And we just did not have it with the Trump administration.
And so given how the Trump administration then has used the acting title pretty freely with Wolf and other administration officials, are there changes you believe Congress should implement to prevent a president from working around politically appointed cabinet positions?
Well, the law is pretty clear already. It's just that the Trump administration ignores the law in so many instances. They passed executive orders that are clearly in violation of the law. So again, when you have a president who does not believe in legislative authority, you end up in just what we have. A majority of our leaders in Homeland Security, for instance, they are acting. Many of them are acting in roles they should not be because they were appointed illegally, as I already said. But as important, the majority of the things they have tried to implement have been found by the courts to be illegal. The Muslim travel ban, the separation of children issue with families, the Remain in Mexico policy, the construction of this multi-billion-dollar border wall. All those things have come about under this administration. And for the most part, the courts have ruled that they acted illegally. But that has not stopped them. And so in so many instances, the law has not mattered in many things that this administration wanted to do.
All right. Well, Representative Bennie Thompson of Mississippi, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.